I'm stuck.
Okay, guys. Yes.
Got it in.
All right, so listen up, please. So probably the type of graphing, it's up here. The type of graphing you guys are probably most comfortable with is price-slope-intercept form. So like we said with intercepts, if it's a decimal, it's kind of a pain in the butt. In slope-intercept form, most equations we're going to work with are really nice to graph in slope-intercept form, and that's y equals mx plus b. Does anyone remember what anything stands for? So I asked about m and b.
Slope.
Yeah, go ahead. B is the starting point. And actually, when I taught this in algebra, I always said, think of B as, it means that you're beginning at that point. Look, I could spell begin. Spelling's hard.
Think of B to mean begin.
Think of B to mean begin. And it's our starting point. So that's right what Paige says. We're beginning on which spot on the graph? Where do we begin? The y-axis. B is the y-intercept. And it's a point on the y-axis. And so we begin on the y-axis at B. And we talked about the y-intercept, meaning that it's the x equals 0. It's the Did you start the video? Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, I did. I did kind of early, so they probably have heard you guys all be loud. Not you.
It's just for Kinsey.
She's just, yeah.
She has a head cold.
Okay. So, do you guys remember what M stands for, or what M means?
Slope.
Slope. So M is our slope, but why is M? I wasn't there when they came up with this.
Because you go up, down, up, down.
So I'll look at M that way. Okay, so M is the slope, but the M, think of M to mean it's going to be how I move. And I'm going to move using rise over run. So in our slope-intercept form, we just talked about M and B having meanings. They have really important meanings. It's how we begin and how we move. And then the X and Y are just all the little different dots we're going to put on the graph. They're all the points on our line. And there's infinite points. So like I said, if most of you guys, if you had to think about which type of graphing you prefer to do, most of you guys probably do like slope-intercept form better. Now when I talk about rise over run, it's exactly what it sounds like. Rise is how I go up or down, so think of like an elevator. And run, you run left and right, I don't run up and down. So run like across. And so it's going to be kind of like little steps. So looking at example 8 here, it's asking us to graph this using slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So we can look at that equation. This one's really nice because it's already set in that form for us. So y equals 1/2 x minus 5. So in terms of this, we're thinking about y equals mx plus b. And again, the b is where I begin. And what's b in this case? The b is -5. And this is where I'm beginning on the y-axis. So I'm going to put a dot at -5. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually graph this one using intercepts like we did. This is actually really similar to one of the ones we did outside. But if they're asking you to graph using slope-intercept form, you can just use this method. And I think it's a little bit easier. So the M is going to be how I move, and that's the 1/2. And the fact that it's a fraction actually is not frustrating. This is probably the only time fractions are not frustrating in math class, is in slope. This is my rise over my run. So that's saying I'm rising 1 and I'm running 2. So from my dot, I'm going to go up 1 and over 2. Up 1 and over 2. You guys remember this?
No.
Oh gosh. And Abby has it, an algebra teacher. Now, once I have those dots, I can also reverse it. I can go down 1, back 2. Kind of keep moving backwards that way. And then really quickly, without like much math at all, I was able to find 10 points on my graph pretty quickly. It was a little more accurate than our intercepts, where I would only have 2 points and only draw those 2 points and then our line. Okay? So let's look at this next one. Graph y equals negative 3x plus 1. Where do I begin? Hi.
I got an
For graphing
85 on
linear
my
equations.
Oh, this is so
test.
fun. My favorite thing.
So my 3 tests that I had in one day, 92, 88, 85.
Not trying. All right, what's our b in this case, guys?
One.
What kind of one?
Positive.
Positive 1. Start mx plus b, positive 1. And then our m in this case is what?
Negative
Negative 3. Now I want rise over run.
over 1.
So yeah, anything that's not a fraction, we can just automatically put it over 1. So you can make it into a fraction by just putting a 1 underneath, because that doesn't really change the answer at all. So negative 3, so I'm actually going down 3, and then running a positive 1, down 3, and over 1. We're going to talk more about slope tomorrow. I know that makes you excited because that means we're going to watch slope, dude. Down 3 and over 1. And then you can also reverse it. Go up 3, back 1. And should be going downhill. Nice, negative. Okay.
Yes.
Hey,
Okay.
Schooler struggles with that
I'm
sometimes.
Miss Fuller's biggest fan.
She's kind of touchy-feely, isn't it? She forgets to not hug me.
She punched me.
Okay. Now, what's wrong with these equations? Why are these tougher? What's the issue? They're not in order. They're not in that y equals mx plus b. And if I just graph them this way, I'm going to have probably my slope wrong. So I need to get the y alone in this case if this is the method I'm using. Now, if I wanted to, I could slope graph by intercepts. This actually wouldn't be a very tough one to graph by intercepts, but we're practicing this. So let's practice graphing by slope intercept form. So we want to get the y alone. So what am I going to do? Subtract x. Now, I'm going to write it in a particular order on purpose so that it looks like that one up there. So this is gone. Y equals, so I'm going to put the negative x first, plus 5. So what's my b in this case? The b is 5. That's my beginning point is 5.
These are nice numbers.
Different graph. Ooh, fancy. And then once you have that, what's my slope?
Negative 1.
There's like a negative in front of my x, so it's really like a negative 1 is my slope. So again, negative 1 over 1. So from this spot, I'm just going to go down 1 over 1. And again, if you think about the intercepts, they would have been 5, 0, and 0, 5. reverse that. I get a whole lot of dots without much work. Unless you have carpal tunnel, then it probably comes up. Get ahead. All right. The next one. What's wrong with this equation? What do we need to do? How do we get the y alone?
Divide by 2.
We're going to divide by 2 to get that y alone.
Not linear.
Divide by 2, we want to get y alone. So I get y equals 3 over 2x. We only said that x couldn't be in the denominator. So x is okay where it's at. X can't be in the denominator. What's the b though in this case? What's being added or subtracted? There is no b. So b is actually 0. That's where we're going to begin. We're actually going to begin at the origin of the graph, the center. Begin at 0. And then our slope is just that 3 over 2. Again, kind of like it as a fraction because it gives us rise and run right away. So up 3 and over 2. Up 3 and over 2. And then down 3 back 2. And then we can draw our line. All right, and finally, the last two, I actually had 2 equations that I'm going to put on one graph. And the reason for that is just because they're not super complex equations, but they're worth mentioning because a lot of times we get confused about them. So I actually want just to put both of them on the same graph paper. Good with this one? Sketchy. So example 12, so I have 2 different equations here. I have 2 different things going on, but I'm just going to put on the same graph paper. They really won't bug each other too much. How do I get the y alone in this top one?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So y equals -5. What is happening when I have just a y equals -5? We talked about this a little bit already today.
0.
What's 0? Oh, so 0 slope, so 0 fun. This is just a flat, boring line at -5. So our b is -5, but our slope is actually 0 in this case. So nothing exciting is happening here. 0 fun. But -5 on the y-axis. So on the y-axis at -5 is flat, boring line.
You could guess it. What's the next one?
Flat. You're horizontal. You're going crazy.
What?
Or is-
Not?
Flat.
Hold up.
Flat is this way, kiddo.
That's what I was doing.
Oh, you were drawing it down.
No, I was doing that, and then you said flat.
But no, you were on this axis before. Which can I fight with Abby in one class? Okay, so then this next one, now this one doesn't have a y. So kind of all I have left to get alone is x. So what am I going to do? Subtract 3. Now this one's kind of strange. I end up with x equals 6. That means x is always 6. X can't be anything other than 6. So I go find x is 6 on my x-axis, and x is always made constantly 6. And this is that undefined line where, like you go sledding off the side of the building and you have to swear. So, scary. All right. So, do you guys see you have a worksheet today? Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, worksheet for homework. I figure it's just easier with all the graphing I wanted you guys to do. The biggest thing is to graph using the method I asked for. So I think on the whole front side, I ask you guys to use intercepts. And then the whole back side, I ask you to use slope intercept form. So so worksheet is your homework.
Guess whose hand it is? That should be the question in your thing.
Yeah.
Who stuck their hand at the end of the video?
They know you, they would know, but if they don't know you.
Who doesn't know me?
Well, 2 people haven't even been in our class yet.
I don't know.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Hit the post notification.